All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to People of Color Beyond Faith. Today we have the pleasure of presenting Chocolate City Skeptics to you. And this is a group of skeptics, non-believers, atheists, secularists in the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area, and we'll be introducing them shortly. And we just thank you all for joining us today. We thank you for your support and your encouragement with our social justice projects of People of Color Beyond Faith. We wanted to remind you all again that we will be having our conference October 11th and 12th of this year at CFI Los Angeles. CFI is one of our sponsors, along with LA Progressive and Secular Student Alliance, as well as African Americans for Humanism. And so we thank our sponsors for assisting us in this project, and we look forward to bringing more of these conferences to you. We look forward to bringing more of these webcasts to you. We just look forward to being a part of your life, and we thank you for allowing us that opportunity. On June 27th of this year, there were several groups across the country that went out for National HIV Testing Day. And as a matter of fact, Jen Taylor from Black Atheists of Philadelphia, who we presented a couple of weeks ago, wrote a blog about it, and we posted it. And so we asked that you go out there and take a look so you can read about her experience. And there are more of those projects to come in the future. We're still taking physical donations. So if you go to the Indiegogo page, look up People of Color Beyond Faith on Indiegogo. I think we still have a day or two for financial donations. And then you can also still pay directly through PayPal. So People of Color Beyond Faith at gmail.com. That is our PayPal email address. And in addition to that, you can send us emails, so on and so forth. But in addition to that, we're looking for physical donations. We plan on giving school donations out, some to students, some to teachers, just really depends on the situation, so that they will have supplies to give to disadvantaged students in need throughout the school year, so that they won't be without paper, pencils, so on and so forth, resources they need to make them more successful. We also need physical donations, hand sanitizer, bars of soap or liquid soap, towels, socks, gently used clothing or new clothing, new underwear, things like that that we can give out to the homeless, and in some cases to some other people that are in need, domestic violence shelters, so on and so forth, because we plan on doing this on a continuous basis. So it doesn't just stop or start with that particular project. It's an ongoing project that we plan to grow and implement in additional cities throughout the country. So we thank you again for that opportunity. And so with that being said, you can go and register for the conference. It's a $40 registration fee for everyone. For students, the registration fee is only $25. So again, we're looking forward to seeing you there. We recommend the Hilton Hotel in Glendale. That is what we're recommending for accommodations there. So you can call them for rates and details. So we appreciate that. And so on that note, I am going to present Chocolate City Skeptics. Today we have Raina Rhodes, we have Stephen Funches, and MC Brooks should be joining us shortly, but I am going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves to you. So we will start with Raina. Raina, please let us know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself, and when you became a skeptic.
Okay. Y'all know that story already, but I've been on enough of these webcasts by now, but I'm Raina Rhodes, and I am originally from the DMV area. I was born in Baltimore, but I was raised in Columbia, about 45 minutes away from DC. I love this region, and I became a skeptic. I was always a skeptic. I don't think there was ever a time I wasn't a skeptic. I was always skeptical. To hear my family tell it, I was always asking questions, and a lot of hard ones that a lot of adults couldn't answer for me. So, becoming an atheist, a skeptic, this sort of, I guess maybe inevitable. But yeah, I'm having, I started, Chocolate City Skeptics with Marcus, and we we are interested in doing a lot of community service and, joining with other people who are also skeptical, who may be questioning their religious faith or, any sort of other things that they might have encountered over the course of their lives. So, we get together, we hang out, we have a lot of fun, and we want to try to do a lot of good for our communities. So.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I'm happy to hear that. And Stephen, would you mind telling us about yourself and when you became a skeptic?
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Stephen Funches. I am from Philadelphia originally. I moved to the D.C. region about 4.5 years ago. I've always, this is my actually first or second webcast. This is my first one with Black Free Thinkers, people of color beyond faith. I always had issues with religion and organized religion. Then it went from that to spirituality, and then of course I just really started to take the aspect of what I've been taught over the years and what I've been understood all these years to really do my own independent thinking and really just think outside of the box, think about more than just my own life and things that have happened in my life, and think about other people's lives and things that go on in the world, and just the when it came down to religion and everything, just the inconsistencies, the contradictions, and just all the different things that go on within organized religion, within the spirituality of things and the different guides and everything. And to me, it just was not adding up. So I just again started doing my own independent thinking, and I met some great people through that time and connected with people that had the same thought processes as I did. And I'm very happy to be a part of Chocolate City Skeptics. I think I'm one of the first few members that joined, and I'm really looking forward to us doing some great things and just building awareness in the community to let people know that they are not alone if there are any questions or any issues or anything at all that they may be having concerns about. They're not the only people thinking that way, and it's okay to be an independent thinker and be a critical thinker. And everybody's we're here to support everyone with that. So with that being said, I'm excited to be a part of this group.
That is fantastic, you all, and we're glad that you're out there. This community is still in its infancy and is growing by leaps and bounds. And what's admirable about this is more and more people are coming out, and like you said, you're not alone out there. We want people to understand that, and that's one of the reasons why we do these webcasts, to let people know that they're not alone, to give you a reference point, so there are people that are not out. So this may be the only form of community that they have or that they'll be able to have at this moment. So again, we do this for you. We want to let you know how much we care about you. We have a lot of young people that view these webcasts and the podcast as well. So Stephen, what would you say to a young person out there that's grappling with this non-belief? What advice would you give to some of our younger viewers?
One of the things that I would say is, it's okay to think for yourself. It's okay to question for yourself if you're not sure of an answer to something, or you have a question about something. It's okay to do your own research and find that answer. And if you don't find that answer, it's okay to challenge that question you may have. So don't be afraid to do your own own research and your own findings. Just because you're told something is correct doesn't necessarily mean it's always true. So I just strongly encourage young people and just everybody to really do your own independent thinking and independent research, and really think critically, just about not just even religious views, but just in period in general. It can go beyond religion. Just think independently. Don't, just because you're told something again does not mean it's the truth necessarily. It doesn't mean it's not true either, but it certainly doesn't mean it's the truth. So again, just do your own critical, independent thinking.
Excellent. And Raina?
Basically, Stephen hit the nail on the head. You really want to, critical thinking is something that can, enrich your life out beyond just sort of religious faith and, just in sort of your everyday decisions. We're confronted with, a society now that has more access to information than it ever has. And, a lot of that information is not correct. It's misinformation. And some of it is just, things that we've, sort of age-old wisdom, and unfortunately age-old wisdom is not always true, as we come to understand things more and more, and there's more and more data, and there's more and more experiences that we can call on. We can say, what, that's not so true anymore. So, be open-minded, follow the evidence, question everything, really. I mean, if it's true, it should hold up to scrutiny. So, question everything. Kim, I think you still have the microphone muted.
Let's see here. Yeah, what had happened was my screen froze up on me, so my apologies there. But yeah, no, it's important that people utilize those critical thinking skills beyond just their questioning of religion. But we tell people to utilize those critical thinking skills in every area of your life. And if it's true, then it will, like you said, be able to withstand the criticism, the critique, and be able to present the evidence. And so by us being members of the skeptic, atheist, free thought community, one of the things that I've stressed to people, and Rain, I would like for you to speak upon this a little bit more, is that even use those critical thinking skills when interacting with people in the atheist community, with the things that you're being told over here. So, Rain, I wanted you to speak a little bit about that and intersectionality and why it's needed in this community.
You guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. You're good.
Geez. Hallelujah.
Okay. Well, welcome, Marcus. Should Marcus maybe introduce himself first, and then maybe I'll answer your question?
Fantastic. Marcus, what I would like for you to do is to introduce yourself, tell us how long you've been a skeptic, and then give a few words of encouragement to some of our younger viewers.
Okay. What's going on, everybody? My name is Marcus. Most people know me as MC Brooks. I'm an MC hailing from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. I've been a skeptic for about 12 years, I want to say. Yeah, since I was 14 years old. So I've been around for a bit. And I guess the best thing I feel like I can say to our younger crowd is to know that you're not alone. I mean, I know what that's like, because when I was 14, I didn't have any other skeptical or non-believing friends. Everyone in my inner circle, in my family, and even amongst my internet friends were all believers to some degree. So just know that you're not by yourself. We're out here, and hopefully, hopefully you can come across someone, whether it's one of us or someone else out there, who can, help you along your journey.
All right, excellent, excellent. So, Raina, let's defer back to the question that I gave to you, and I'll just reiterate it so that Marcus can hear it as well. So what I was saying is that, we encourage people to utilize critical thinking skills, not only in their non-belief, but in every area of their lives, but also to utilize those same critical thinking skills when interacting with people in the atheist, secular, free thought community. And so what I wanted Raina to do was to talk a little bit about that, as well as why intersectionality is important in the atheist community. So I just wanted some commentary from Raina on that respect.
Yeah, so I mean, we don't all have the same experiences with religion. We don't all believe for the same reasons. While some of us may have some similar experiences with belief and coming into non-belief, there are cultural differences and socioeconomic differences that can't be overlooked. For me, and sort of being in the atheist community, you see a lot of people who sort of emphasize sort of one narrative, and anything that doesn't fit that narrative is like sort of looked over. But Black people in this country, we don't really have access to in general a lot of the sorts of social safety nets and institutions that can support us and help us to gets resources and things that we need. And churches in a lot of communities have been, the institutions that have provided those things when, the government or, other organizations could not be counted upon, to help us. So, people who are still in the faith, they're not necessarily there because they still believe. They're there for a number of reasons, the social support, the emotional support, the psychological services, although, pastors and, ministers and what have you are not necessarily psychologists, unfortunately, that's where most Black people go for psychological support, for counseling services. So, churches and faith institutions provide a number of services, even daycare. Sometimes, they're the best resources for, primary education, secondary education, available to people, especially now where, we're seeing, public schools, closing and charters and things like that being, the better options for parents. A lot of them have to go to religious institutions to educate their kids, to keep their kids safe. So there's, you have to think about these sorts of issues when you talk about, religion and non-belief. And unfortunately, atheists typically don't. A lot of organizations will have meetings and they'll say, okay, we're going to have our meetings out here in the suburbs where there's no public transportation, but where are all the Black people? You know what I mean? Well, or where are all the people of color, or where are all, the lower income people, but they don't realize there's no transportation out here. You don't have many people of color out here to begin with. Why not have it someplace where you might have a more diverse crowd, where people can more easily access you? So, these are the sorts of issues where, intersectionality needs to be considered. So.
Fantastic. Let's give Brooks a chance to answer that question.
Brooks, you gotta unmute yourself.
I almost started talking without unmuting myself. Well, I know that now. I almost started talking without it. Okay, so obviously, I'm pretty much going to piggyback off what Raina said, which is that everyone's experiences in this country are different. And I've been, like I said, I've been a non-believer for about 12 years, but my path to non-belief is drastically different than the story than some others. A lot of folks talk about, they read the Bible and they read science books and all of that. I didn't have access to any of that. I pretty much, all I really had access to being raised in a Catholic school environment was the Bible and whatever books that my school could afford. And so my own personal path ended up, I ended up kind of just, I had a problem, I had an issue with the problem of evil, and that kind of led me to my non-belief. And the only reason I say that is because, like I said, my story to non-belief is not the same as everyone else's. So it's important to note that not everyone is going to arrive at the same destination the same way. I have experiences with being Black that lots of white non-believers don't ever have to deal with or worry about. Raina has experiences in being a woman that myself, as well as many white male non-believers, will never have to deal with. And so there are issues that come with that make it hard for us to really make a lot of the blanket statements or rally behind some of the causes that a lot of these white male led organizations are pushing in the mainstream atheist community. You know what I mean? Raina spoke a lot about them having a lot of social safety nets, and we don't have that. So it's easy to say it's easy to tell people, hey, stop going to church, it's bad, blah 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 blah. But what are these organizations going to be doing to, I guess, to provide for the services that are going to be gone if they end up doing that? Like, even there are plenty of people who will leave who will stay in the church because of those services. And it's important, and it's important that people understand that things aren't always as cut and dry as just, oh, I'm just going to leave, or I'm just going to stop going to church, or I'm just going to, I'm just going to go out and go on my own. That it's really not that simple. One thing that stopped me from really branching out and being all Mr. Vocal was the fact that I knew that there was a very real chance that I could be homeless if I was vocal about my non-belief in that way. And I would have had to completely uproot myself, being a 16, 17-year-old kid in DC, having next to nowhere to go. So it's important. Intersectionality is important because people have to understand that it's not simple for everybody. Everybody's experiences are different.
That is very true. And, this is something that we've talked about on a number of occasions, about how there are differences in the community. Stephen, I would like your input on this.
Sure. Could you just repeat the question one more time? I know we're talking really heavily into the answers.
Oh, yeah, no worries. So what I was talking about is utilizing critical thinking skills, not only when dealing with religion, but in every area of your life, but also utilizing those same critical thinking skills when interacting with people in the secular, atheist, free thought community, and why intersectionality is so important, why we need to discuss that and take intersectionality into consideration as we move forward.
Yeah, good. Well, I think, we talked about this at our last meeting. A lot of times, unfortunately, critical thinking for a lot of non-believers does stop at religion. And I think it's important that we, again, think that, just because there are non-believers and atheists it's a growing community, there still are, racists, there still are homophobic people, there still are, sexists, all that stuff still exists in people that don't believe. So, again, just like Brooks was saying earlier, all of our stories are different. So I think it's important that we learn from each other in the community, in the secular community, and realize, how we can learn each other to help, build a community and make it stronger. And, just not just in the Black atheist community, but also, all over. Again, it's important that we share our stories, and that's why I think it's important that I'm a lot more vocal than what I would have been before, because, a year ago, when I was still having doubts and questions, I was very quiet about it because my family, a lot of them are pretty religious. So I didn't really speak about it. But again, it's just part of building that community and just helping people understand each one of our stories is different. So we're not all the same. My story is different, again, just like Brooke said, from Raina's, from yours, from all of us. Is everybody in the communities, no two people's stories are exactly the same. So again, I think it's important that we continue to learn from each other and build upon that experience from our own, and then from learning from others, grow and continue to make that a stronger community.
All right, very good, excellent, and that's true. We are definitely not a monolith. You have a number of people with a number of different beliefs, a number of different reasons as to how they became non-believers, how they came out, so on and so forth. So I'm going to go back to something that was stated earlier, and I'm going to, push this over to Brooks. And basically, we were talking about social justice, if you will, and about how basically the church is like the focal point, like the community center of many communities of color. And so, many people go there, like Raina said, to get, counseling services, to get help with their gas and light bills, sometimes help with their rent, food donations, because, again, talking about the differences in, different communities, with some people, we still have the working poor, black and white and, Latino and Asian, so on and so forth. And with some people, they may have, two parents that are both working, but sometimes the food just doesn't make it to the end of the month. And you can run over to the church and get a bag or two of food that'll help you get through that last week until you get to your next pay period. And so these are some of the services that, are being offered by some churches, not all of them, but there are some well-meaning churches out there. And so in the atheist community, I hear a lot of people saying that we shouldn't work with progressive liberal churches and ministers, but if they're out there doing this type of work and this is what we believe in, there will be times when we will have to join forces with them. Now, we're not out here saying that we want a theocracy. We're not going to be joining in line with anybody that, are holding up God hates fag signs. We don't do that. But the thing is that we do believe in giving back to the community. So I guess what I would ask Marcus at this point is, what are your thoughts on, atheists, free thinkers, skeptics going into the community and offering these services to the people that are in need?
I think they can do a world of good. And as much shit as I would probably get from a lot of atheists for saying this, but churches do a lot of good in a lot of communities. And, as much as we may disagree with the Bible and we disagree with the stances of a lot of prominent Christians, such as like Pat Robertson or the Pope, there are churches out here that are creating change in communities just by, like you said, offering food or offering some of these services. I mean, if people are really concerned about, social justice and really wanting to make a change and really wanting to create a better life for people out there in some of these poverty-stricken communities, then you really are going to at some point have to try to see the bigger picture. Ideally, would any non-believer want to work with someone that you fundamentally might disagree with? No, not at all. But the greater good, if the greater good can be providing food and services for people, then there's nothing wrong with that.
Excellent. Stephen?
Yes, and just piggyback off of what Brooke said, it's important that we work together. There are churches and different organizations that do great things. So working with each other in the community, they can certainly learn a lot from us. I know a lot of times a misconception about non-believers or atheists is that we're devil worshippers, or we do a whole bunch of stuff that's not true. And just closing that misconception and working together. We're here for the community just as much as a church may be. So again, it's just important for us to work together, not necessarily even with churches. I mean, any organization that's reaching out to the community, I think it's important to bridge that gap and work together, and how we can build the community and make it a better place, and make it a safe place for people, not just in the secular community, but people that may be believing, just as creating a safe space for everybody, and just working together and just building a community, because a community consists of many, many people. And just like you said earlier, we're not, of course, saying we're going to talk about the Bible, or we're not supporting that per se, just like they're not supporting us. However, when it comes down to community and working together, I think it's important that we work together with anyone who's willing to assist the community as much as we are.
Excellent. And when we were doing the National Day of Testing, HIV Testing Day, when we went out, in some cases, with some of the groups, they had a hard time making headway with some of these organizations because they're faith-based. And there were a couple of them that didn't want to work with us because we were secular, but we found quite a few more that were like they didn't care, they just needed the help. So, Rain, I just wanted you to expound on the question that's at hand, please.
So the question that was at hand was basically, should we work with these churches and things like that, right? Essentially, right? And the question, and it's not. I mean, I don't even think that's a question. I mean, we have to. I mean, we have no choice. You know what I mean? If you go by the estimates that are out about the number of non-believers that are in this country, right? We're somewhere between 10% to 20% is what different people estimate. For the Black community, it's even less. So, I mean, what do we look like running around here with 2 or 3 people? You know what I mean? trying to make headway in the community. We need to connect with progressive organizations that are trying to do good in the community and are about their business. And that's what we look for. In trying to make make connections in the DC area, I encountered a little bit of just questions mainly, about what we were trying to do. Are we we're non-religious, so what does that mean? Are we out here trying to proselytize? Do we have some deep, political agenda that we're trying to put forward? And I think that once we talk to them and we help them to understand, no, we're not really trying to convert anybody. I mean, we're just letting people know that we're here and that there are other people who are, non-religious, and we want to help out in our community. And once we let people know that, for the most part, we've had, good response. So it's you just have to modify your approach, I think. So.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. And Raina, don't mute yourself yet because I'm getting ready to switch up on you a little bit. It's kind of tied. It's kind of interrelated. But and because Raina and I are really good friends, and Raina knows how I feel about a number of these issues. But let's talk about atheist churches.
Oh, goodness.
Since we're talking about churches.
You gonna start on that today? Mm-mm.
Baby, yeah, but I'm gonna weigh my words. I'm gonna write on my tongue. Basically, for those that are familiar with my podcast, I do a lot of comparative analysis of theists and atheists. And what I'm starting to see over here in the atheist secular community, that people are bringing over, religiosity mindset, the group thinks, so on and so forth. And so now we have this new phenomena of, atheist churches coming, up and rising. Now, I do understand that it's about a social construct, not only with the atheist churches, but just churches in general, with believing churches. It's a social construct. And we understand that. We understand how that works. We understand why it's important. But I'm just going to leave it there, and I'm going to let Raina. Can you give me your synopsis on that particular phenomena?
Okay. So honestly, I have not been to an atheist church yet. So anyone at home, take my opinion with a grain of salt. Okay. I personally, because I was raised, partially in the church, I can attest that, that the church is, church can be very positive. I had a lot of positive experiences in the church, and I would still be there if not for the fact that I couldn't bring myself to believe. I had I had extended family there. I had some really positive experiences. I loved singing on the choir. I liked, being involved in the community activities that my church was involved in. So I would still be there, except for, that one major issue. But as far as the atheist churches, I gotta say I'm highly skeptical based on things that I've seen. It just seems to me that the main goal of these atheist churches is to generate money. I could be wrong, but I haven't seen anything so far that suggests otherwise. There are atheist organizations that are out here that are doing things that are involved in their communities, and they're already doing that without, calling themselves churches or anything like that. There are already atheist groups out here that are and skeptical groups that are already out here that do things like pub nights and gatherings and all types of things. So I'm not really sure that I get what atheist churches are really up to. You know, do we have a sermon every Sunday, you know, saying there is no God? You know what I mean? Good news, you're not going to hell? Like, I don't know. It's a little strange to me. I don't know. Maybe somebody
Okay.
else can weigh in. So.
Well, I mean, yeah, and I understand perfectly what you're saying because, just to be fair, I came from the church as well. I was raised in the church. Like I said, came from a line of ministers, so on and so forth. And I'll, honestly say I've had a lot of positive experiences in church. For many of us, that was, where we learned how to do public speaking. That is where we learned how to sing, singing in a choir, going out on field trips, Six Flags, Great America, all of that, something to do during the summer, vacation Bible school. That's where some of us learned how to cook or to get an interest in cooking. I mean, so it was just a number of things. There were a lot of positive things that came from being members of a church. So I can understand how people are missing that, that community. They're missing that interaction. In some cases, they're missing being able to go back out into the community and give back. I mean, I understand all of that. So, we're not putting that down because, I can just tell you from personal experience what I remember and some of the things that I do miss. I mean, I do miss getting together after church on Sundays and going to different people's houses because somebody cooked. And they cooked enough for everybody because you just never know a person's situation. This person may not have any food at home. And so they're coming over, they're eating, they take a plate or two home, and now they got some food to kind of last them for another couple of days. Or, you put some money in somebody's pocket because they've been having a hard time. So, I mean, things like that. So, Stephen, would you like to elaborate on that?
Yes. As far as but again, just to piggyback back up on what you both said, churches, I get to have, was part of the church, and I was in the choir, the youth choir, and I was the president of my high school gospel choir. So I was very involved, and it has done some great things. For my stepmother, when she was sick with cancer, great things. A pastor would take food over to the house, and people from the church would come over. So yeah, I mean, church has done some great things. Listen, but as far as an atheist church, I really think that takes away from me, my view. Again, this is just one man's view. I think calling it an atheist church really takes away from the whole message of what atheism is and what, what it means. And I think that when you create a church for atheism, it sort of is like an oxymoron because it's like, we're a community and we're trying to do good, but I feel like to a point where it starts to lose what really atheism and non-belief really means. So I'm not familiar with atheist church. I've never been to one. I've never read up on one. Just based on my own understanding of what I think it is. I'm not as familiar, but I will say that I don't think that that's something that I would probably be a part of because again, to me it's sort of like an oxymoron, and I don't have any desire to, go to a church. I think it's important that we as a community build each other, and help each other and grow and help build the community in a strong, positive way. But to have a set thing where you get together this date, and what do you talk about at these church? Is it like just like Rana said, is it like a sermon that you preach every Sunday about, hey, you're not going, like there is no hell, or so exactly what does that mean? I don't know. But I think, what we're doing as far as what I'm familiar with as far as, the secular, that thing, I think it's great what communities just do and just say, hey, we're just non-believers and we're here to, do some things to help the community, but to call it a church. And I just feel like it's sort of like, again, it doesn't go well together, and it could be, a money-making thing. I don't know. I'm not saying it is, but, why does it need to be called a church? So that's my own view.
Excellent, very good, Brooks. Run with it, dear.
Yeah, that's really my big thing. Like, why do you need to call it a church? I mean, in some of the atheist organization meetings that I've been to, and even some of the ones that we've had, like we've done a lot of the same stuff, and we don't really need to call it a church. We like when we've had our Chocolate City Skeptics meetings, we've congregated, we've listened to music, we've eaten food, and all that. We've done a bunch of stuff together, and I haven't really seen any real reason for us to call it a church. And Stephen said something that I definitely wanted to get on, which is that calling it an atheist church kind of makes it sound like it. In my opinion, it makes atheism sound more like a religion than anything else. I mean, one of the biggest arguments that we often have when we have discussions with theists and other folks is that atheism is not a religion. That's like a mainstay in this community. Atheism is not a religion. And on top of that, atheists are not a monolith. So finding even some that have similar interests outside of, hey, we don't believe, is hard. So all this does, when you want to congregate people and do all of this stuff, it makes it sound like a faith, and it makes it sound like it's a religion. You can do all of this stuff without having to call it a church. So I don't really see. I mean, I could see a point to some degree because like you all said, folks out there do miss a lot of the community that they had, and a lot of the interactions that they had. A lot of the services, the music was always, at least at my old church, the music was always on point. You always miss. There's stuff about that you definitely miss, but I'm not really sure what creating, I guess, or calling it a church and trying to essentially be the same as Christians. I don't really see what that really accomplishes in the long run.
All right.
Yeah, I agree. I just wanted to make one more comment too, and it's just this. I think one of the things that I don't miss about churches is sort of this the charismatic, leadership aspect, and how people can get invested in sort of this cult of personality, and pastor said, and pastor said, and pastor said, and you know what I mean, and deacon said, and deacon said. We don't want to do that, but I feel like, unfortunately, in the atheist community, that pastor said and deacon said thing becomes Dawkins said, and Shermer said, and Hitchens said, and I kind of want to get away from that. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of not digging the whole atheist church thing just based on that. This is just a comment sort of on Black freethinkers and what we kind of do, and one of the reasons I think I sort of became friends with you and sort of got involved in Black freethinkers is because it's not about any one particular person. You know what I mean? In Black freethinkers, you obviously are leading and sort of guiding and helping us along with things, but it's not about Kim. You know what I mean? It's not about Raina. It's not about Brooks. It's not about Mario. It's not about Emmeline. It's not about any one of us. It's about everything that each of us can bring to the table. And so I kind of the way that we kind of do with Chocolate City Skeptics, it's not about me and Brooks. We started things, but it's at the end of the day, it's not about us. It's about the group, and what the group wants, and if the group and how the group wants to guide things. There's certain principles that won't change. We're not going to stand for homophobia, and we're not going to stand for sexism, and we're not going to stand for discrimination of any type. But at the end of the day, it's not about my vision or a single vision. It's about everything. It's about everything that everyone brings to the table. So I just wanted to put that in. Sorry.
Oh, no. I'm glad that you said that, because, you took me to another, like I said, we should be taking up an offering for what you just said, because, we've talked about this, about how, again, when I'm talking about how they bring some of that religiosity over to the atheist community. So instead of, quoting, Jesus or quoting Paul or any one of those people, now they're quoting Dawkins, Harris, and Hitchens. And it's the same type of mindset. I've talked about that on a number of occasions, and you're correct about the cult of personality. And we're starting to see that over in this community. And I've raised some red flags to things that I've seen happening and that I'm currently seeing. And this is kind of spilling over from the podcast earlier today. You all may want to check that out because we went 20 minutes into overtime. But basically, this is what I find interesting. And I'm just going to go ahead and call it out. I just really don't care. American atheists, they went to CPAC. And we all know that CPAC is, a conservative consortium. So you have Tea Partiers, Libertarians, ultra-right Republicans there. And many of these people are openly racist. They're openly homophobic. They're openly sexist, transphobic, so on and so forth. And these are the things that the atheist community is supposed to be standing against. Yet, we've experienced racism, sexism, homophobia, so on and so forth in the atheist community, and we see a number of these white male atheists saying that they've never met a homophobe or they've never met a racist. And you have people in this community saying that since they've become an atheist, that they are no longer racist or homophobic, as though they've been dipped in the blood of the four horsemen, in comparison to dipped in the blood of Jesus and being baptized and coming up. You went down a dry devil, came up a wet one, right? So the same thing is happening in this community. You came in a racist and you still won. I don't care what you say. And we have numerous examples of this. But what I'm saying is I'm looking at the irony and I'm looking at what's happening. If the atheist community is against homophobia, against racism, against misogyny, against sexism, and they attribute all of those negative, things to religion, why are you recruiting people who are actively, promoting the things that we're against? And so this is why I'm saying to some of the black atheists, I just feel that some of these people in these organizations, they see us as a resource and a resource only. They have interest in individual people, but not in our issues. And because they know that people of color have been conditioned to give, conditioned to do as they've been told, if you will. So they have an interest in getting their membership numbers up, and they have an interest especially in those membership fees. And I just have an issue all the way around. And so, I want to give Stephen a chance to speak on that, or some things that he may have seen happening in this community that gives him concern.
Hey, so yeah, I mean, yes, you hit the nail right on the head, and being a gay man and being a non-believer atheist, I've seen, I've seen atheists talk about, use the F word and call, gay people fags and all the other stuff, who are non-believers and atheists and just like me. And it's very disheartening because, again, we talked about this at our meeting on last week. It seems a lot of times that free thinking stops at religion. And the minute you take, it to the next level, like going to, the gay community or the black community or sexism or anything, the mind just completely shuts down and it only stops at religion. So unfortunately, racism exists in the atheist community, sexism, homophobic, all that stuff is very, very prevalent in the atheist community. So I think it's important that, we make it known that unfortunately this is the way it is. And in my experience, if we're supposed to be a free thinking, free thought, group of people and really embracing humans and being humanists and everything, I think that people really need to take a step back. People that aren't thinking the way that a lot of us do think, really take a step back and really think, am I really a free thinker the way I claim to be? Am I really an atheist? Because to me, when I think of an atheist or non-believer, I think of people that, love people unconditionally, are humanists, are care genuinely for the rights of every human being that exists, and just being, very supportive of people. And it's not happening, unfortunately, in the community. And again, it's sad because we're supposed to. Our percentage is already very low, and it's already very difficult for people, especially in the black community, to come out as atheists, come out as gay and atheists, and all this other stuff. So to make it difficult, even more difficult for them, is just another challenge that doesn't even need to happen.
Exactly. And Brooks, your take on this?
Well, that's be it's all right. I start off jumbled. It's mainly because a lot of these organizations, a lot of these mainstream atheist organizations, especially, their only concern is shutting down anything that has to do with religion. So if that means recruiting people or associating with people who are homophobic or have said things that are racist or sexist in the past, then so be it. What we've seen is there are lots of folks, lots of organizations that are willing to put up with this stuff so long as they're making some points, that they're saying stuff that'll help them score some points against religious people or religious organizations. You know, I mean, people are so surprised when they find out that Dave Silverman is a conservative, and it's crazy because there are people there. There are lots of white male atheists in particular that will argue you down when you bring that up because they refuse to believe. They already have these awful views about conservatives being these awful, horrible religious people, not knowing that the leader of American Atheists is associating with them. Like, there's a reason he's only been on Bill O'Reilly's show on and all over Fox Network. That's not by mistake. It's not by mistake that you don't see him on with Melissa Harris Perry on weekends. You know what I mean? You know, so as long as the focus for a lot of these organizations is just talking down to religious folks or bashing religious people, then it doesn't really matter if people are saying racist stuff. People will put up with Richard Dawkins' racist statements so long as he continues tweeting out things that are anti-Islamic. You know, people will put up with it. They don't particularly. A lot of people don't particularly care. They like to associate these things solely with religious folks, not realizing that they sound just like them.
Exactly. Raina, take it home.
I just want to say that as far as I do want to talk about conservatives in the atheist community, but I also want to remind everyone at home that just because you're not a conservative, just because you call yourself a liberal, does not mean that liberal racism does not exist, because there's a lot of liberal racism out there. And I have to say that sometimes I've heard some of the things I've heard that have been the most racist, and even the most sexist, have come from actual liberals, more so than conservatives. But but as far as like the CPAC thing and Dave Silverman, I mean, this is all on record. We don't have to. You don't have to take our word for it. He's talked about his conservatism, and there's a number of other atheist leaders or prominent atheists out here who are known libertarians, and have a very strong libertarian agenda. They're anti-public schools. They want to, they agree with, was it Rand Paul, when he said that the Civil Rights Act, violates personal liberty, so we have to be careful about those people that we endorse and what sort of agendas they might have. It's not to say that I think that all of these organizations are necessarily anti-Black or, anti-immigrant, but a number of people in their organizations seem to be, and we need to keep an eye on that. So, just because you're an atheist does not mean that you're a progressive. It doesn't mean that you're, that you've decided that to be, anti-racist or anti-prejudice. These are things that you have to work on, and I guess that's really all I have to say about that right now.
All right. Well, don't go too far because the next one is directed at you, and we'll keep going from there. So, since we're on, we're already, doing cartwheels on that fine line right there, let's talk about atheism being used as a shield for Black nationalists.
Oh,
and
funny.
how black nationalists are not the same as black
Yeah.
Christians. And, you know, for some of the white supremacists that we have in this community, many black nationalists hold the same thoughts. They call it black supremacy, but it's the same thing, only in blackface. And so we're
Absolutely.
starting to see a lot of, you know, black nationalists slash atheists being elevated in the community because, of course, you know, they have some of the same
Right.
messages. And basically, you know, especially when it comes to that message about bootstrapping, when it comes to the messages about, you know, basically destroying the black Christian community, if you will. And so I just wanted you to kind of expound on that a little bit, Raina.
Oh, my pleasure. So as far as the black nationalists using atheism as a shield, so um, this is what I have to say about that. There are a number of assumptions when it comes to black people, and particularly about our seriousness and our sort of intellectual fortitude and things like that are questioned in sort of general society. You know what I mean? Just because of white supremacy and racism being prevalent. And some of us have internalized a lot of that, and some of us blame that on Christianity, because black people in this country are primarily Christian. You know, because a lot of us, whether we identify as Christian or not, we have experiences with the church. If you're black in this country, you basically can't avoid some kind of interaction with the black church. Because of that, some people have decided that that is the problem, and you know, it's hard for me to fathom why, when I look at history and I look at, you know, laws and policies that deliberately discriminated against black people in not only employment but in housing and, you know, in, you know, education, you know, in just about every facet of life. You know, black people have, you know, always sort of, you know, done what they've, you know, had to do to try to get the American dream. We've created businesses and things like that and seen them destroyed, bombed, taken, legally and illegally. And so I think people that believe this narrative that somehow that Christianity is the thing that screwed us up, they've got things twisted, and they need to, reread history. And unfortunately, some of these people have made their way into the black atheist community, because a lot of black nationalists believe this. They believe that the problem is essentially that black people are not entrepreneurial enough, that black people, that we don't make our own stuff, and so therefore, that's why we suffer racism, which is really stupid, because that's exactly what a lot of white racists believe, is that, maybe if we just stopped, holding our hands out, that, not that we've ever been holding our hands out, because believe me, black people don't hold their hands out. black people that I know, the black people that I've seen and read in history, we were working. We were looking for handouts. We were looking to, survive and to do what we needed to do to survive. But somehow there's this narrative that's popular, that black people are looking for handouts and special favors, and we don't want to work. And so these two communities have found each other sort of in atheism, and there's this notion that we're praying too much and not working hard enough, and that's the problem. And so people like Jeremiah Kamara and his ilk are becoming very popular in this community, to demonize and bash the church. And again, the atheist community builds itself as a humanist community interested in, human welfare and well-being and whatnot. But a lot of times it just basically amounts to bashing the church, and they'll bash the church by any means necessary. There's this church over here that, is anti-gay. And so therefore all churches are bad. Well, what about all of these other churches over here that have gay ministers and marry, gay couples and, are pro-LGBT, who actually march and, you know, support things. No, we don't care about that. They're all bad, you know. So it's a very narrow-minded, black and white thinking that goes on in this community. And Jeremiah Kamara and some of his, you know, supporters, you know, they're guilty of this, and they're guilty of promoting it. And it's sad, honestly. It's not progressive. It doesn't move us forward. So.
Exactly. Let's go to Brooks.
There's a market for anti-blackness. I'll say that again. There is a huge market for anti-black rhetoric, and the fact that you have black nationalists that have infiltrated the atheist community, not particularly all that surprising. Anything, you know, people love to promote these ideas, like Raina was talking about, that black folks are just the worst of the worst. We're not doing shit. Our condition is our condition because we are not working hard enough, and we're not concerned about anything other than being pimps and hoes and rap stars on BET, right? And when you have black people, especially, spewing this rhetoric, it becomes extremely attractive to a lot of the affluent white folks who also share those same ideas, but don't want to say them because they know they'll be seen as racist. So when you can find and associate with folks that are saying it that look like the people that you're talking about, obviously you're going to want to form alliances, and obviously that's going to become attractive to you. You know what I mean? And it works both ways, because then those same affluent white folks can say whatever they want and know that they'll have the support of some of the people that they're talking about, so they can just say, hey, those black people over there agree with me, so obviously it can't be bad. You know, one of the biggest examples of this was when Cult of Dusty had his video on black Christians last year that, you know, created a firestorm, and a lot of folks couldn't understand why people had an issue with what he was saying, especially because he had black people who threw on their favorite capes and flew off to fight for him. You know what I mean? So it's not particularly, you know, surprising, because at the end of the day, there's a market for anti-blackness, and you can also throw, and because black people are one of the most, if not the most religious group, you can throw a lot of that rhetoric together, because you'll be bashing Christianity, and you'll be bashing a lot of black folks at the same time. So
right.
It works.
Right, it's a win-win. Yeah, it's a win-win. And what I was going to say was the other thing I wanted to piggyback off of what Marcus was saying is, in the atheist community, you already have like sort of this sense of exceptionalism. You know what I mean? Like we're atheists, therefore we're intellectual. You know, seems to be the a recurring theme in our community. I'm an atheist, therefore I can speak about this, this, and this, even though I'm not qualified to speak about this, this, and this. I've never researched it or anything. You know, and you know, one thing that I seem to notice is that there's there sometimes are people who I guess in sort of the general atheist community, when they find a particular person of color that they really like, that's saying, you know, all of the, you know, the party membership lines, you know what I mean? They sort of treat this person like, yes, this person is exceptional. They've arrived. They're now qualified, you know, to talk about everything because they're an intellectual. And so there's this sort of sense of exceptionalism that kind of that some black atheists have sort of taken on by becoming accepted by sort of the mainstream atheist movement. You know, that now that they too are, you know, intellectuals, and that they're, you know, their Dawkins and their Hitchenses in the making, you know. So I just wanted to say that.
Exactly. And, you know, I am right there with you. And Stephen, run with it. Take it home, little
Yes,
guy.
thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I just have one point to make about that. My point that I want to make is it just is division within the community. It's we already as a Black atheist community, it's already very difficult being Black and being atheist, and for when you have these things that go on, it just to me is causing even more division within the community. That unfortunately is just it's like it's like almost like racism within the community, and unfortunately when you have that, it just causes complete division, and that's all I really have to say. And I don't think that it's good that we have that kind of division, because we should be working together to help empower each other to be doing positive, not have that negative mindset about a lot of times that maybe some of the nationalists may have. We need to have these positive mindsets about us and encourage each other and be empowering to each other, and not be negative towards each other, because again, we only have each other. We have everybody else, but in the grand scheme of things, or even the small scheme of things, we just have each other. So when you create this kind of division in the atheist community, especially the Black atheist community, it causes a whole new set of problems. Then subsequently, you're going to have division against other parts, and then it just becomes a whole nightmare after that, and a disaster. So, that's all I have to say regarding that point.
Okay, and I just wanted to kind of expand a bit more, because I also forgot to mention, and I should have. I don't even know why I stopped at saying that there's a market for anti-blackness, because there's also a market for anti-woman stuff as well, and you find a lot of that rhetoric coming from both sides. From the Black nationalist crowd, that's usually directed at Black women because they're betraying the Black man by being feminist, and also going at white women just by being white women. And you find a lot of that also in the atheist community. You find a lot of passive as well as overt sexism coming from everyone from some of the profound folks like Dawkins with Elevator Gate, to even people who are just dropping comments in Facebook groups calling people bitches and cunts. So there's that also,
Agreed, and it's like again, it's so much of it, goes on, and people are like, oh, well, you're just being sensitive, or well, why isn't it that you're being insensitive? Like, why isn't it that you're not being a jerk? You know what I mean? Like, it's we're social animals, you know what I mean? And we have to care about other people, and sort of we don't need to go out of our way rather to like hurt other folks, and I just think we need to be more conscientious about the sorts of things that we say and the sorts of ideas that we espouse. And going back to what Marcus was saying about Black women, especially, a lot of the sort of the focus that gets thrown around, I guess the sort of things that get thrown around about the Black church, a lot of it focuses on Black women, because Black women are the main people that go to the church, that attend church and give, and so there's a lot of this anti-Black woman stuff going around about how Black women are stupid and that they don't know what's good for them, and it's highly paternalistic, and it's very gendered, and it's very racist, that these women don't somehow know what's good for them. They're not getting anything good out of this. I mean, only those women can know what they're getting out of this when they go home, or when they have to send their kids to daycare, or when they need their lights turned. Only they can speak on that. We can't necessarily just put down that experience. We may not believe in God, and we may not believe in the Bible, but they're going because they're getting something out of the experience, and so we can't necessarily just, toss that out. But yeah, I just wanted to say that, because I see, and unfortunately, I have to say, I've seen a lot of this in the Black atheist community. A lot of people who are really bitter when it comes to like black women and like, you know, I'm sorry that your grandmother made you go to church. I'm sorry, but that was what she thought was going to be best for you. And I'm pretty sure she didn't mean to hurt you. I really am. But that does not justify you going in on black women and calling them stupid and, you know, lonely and all of these other things that get thrown around when, you know, black Christians and Uncle Tom's, you know, types conversations go on. It's disturbing. Ugh.
Exactly. It's very disturbing. And you see some black female atheists out there leading the charge in some cases when it comes to sexism and denigrating, you know, black women. And, you know, I'm going to tie this into what you were saying earlier about that exceptionalism, because unfortunately there are a few people in the community, people of color, that have been told, oh, well, you're different. Oh, well, you know, you're the exception, or you're A, B, C, D, and E. And that exceptionalism, I just would like to tell you, it's a lie.
And it's racist.
On every level. Exactly.
And it's racist and it's sexist. It's assuming that you must be somehow like different from other people who are like you. You know what I mean? Because those people are stupid. You know, you on the other hand, you're different. You know, like it's just like when people like approach me or approach other black people and they say, "Oh, you speak
very
well." You know what I mean? Like I've grown up in America. English is my first language. Like the assumption that I cannot speak English, well, it's just a racist assumption. And I mean, yeah, I can switch into other dialects. I can hit a Southern dialect in a heartbeat. You know, you have to be able to code switch a little bit. You know, just a little bit.
It is racism, and I just want to say to your point too. I'm sorry to jump in, but I just want to say to your point too. It's sad because, you know, the excuse a lot of times people will say is, oh, I don't mean it like that, but you really do, because subconsciously that's what you really think. You know, and again, even in you know, with gays, you know, in the gay community, when people say to me, oh wow, you're a nice looking gay guy, you know, a handsome gay guy, you can get any girl you want. I was like, okay, whatever. But anyway, so that's the point I want to make. It is very sexist and very racist.
Mm-hmm. I guess Kim is still on mute. Kim? Oh, okay. I guess she wants us to keep talking. So yeah, the exceptionalism thing is sort of it's troublesome. Like, I mean, I don't want people to, you know, be walking around thinking that, you know, that I'm somehow more intelligent or more sophisticated in my thinking because I'm an atheist. I mean, no. I mean, it actually doesn't really take a whole lot to come to the notion that there's, you know, that there probably is no God, or that you don't believe in God. It doesn't take a whole lot.
Right.
You know, it's
right. Like I mean to interrupt, but like I was saying earlier with my story, like I didn't arrive at atheism through some big intellectual debate or reading some dope science book or whatever. Nope. I was just mad as fuck. I was mad as hell, and I was mad as hell for a long time. It wasn't until like maybe I think 2 or 3 years after I was like fuck God and religion that I actually read some shit that gave me some sort of understanding. Like, okay, this is okay. I know creationism is bullshit because of the theory of evolution. You know, it wasn't until long after the fact. It wasn't until long after the fact that I discovered that. I mean, there are plenty of stupid atheists out here. I mean, that we don't, you know, you don't really have to travel too far.
And there are some atheists that are bitter about their religious experiences too. Like and there are those atheists that fit the stereotype, unfortunately, that like, you know, they had some kind of trauma and now they don't believe in God. I mean, but we're all just different. Like, you know, I didn't come to atheism because like I was mad at God or I was mad at like, you know, my parents, or I was mad at my church. Like, I loved my last church, especially. I would go there today, except I don't believe in God, so there's no point. Right. But like, go ahead, Stephen. Sorry.
I was gonna say I'm sorry. I was gonna say that the issue is, I think a lot of times is people, they look at you differently when you tell them that you don't believe in God. They're like, well, how don't you believe God? And, you know, people may get upset and think you're trying to change them, and I never, ever, ever will try and change someone into thinking or believing what I'm thinking or thinking. However, I do like to challenge people's views and say, well, why do you believe, and tell me why, because I'd like to know, because then you can hear why I want to. But when people tell you that, you're wrong, they're not open-minded to listen to you, then that to me I have a problem with. And again, as far as there are a lot of evangelical atheists, like you said, a lot of them are this the church and this and this. Oh, I hate this and filled with hate and bitterness, and that's not. Again, everybody's different, and that's what it all comes down to. Our experiences are all different, and all of our understandings are all different. But I think a lot of times it causes a perception about atheists that not that believers may have, that atheists are hate God or they're negative, and it's not like that for a lot of us. It's not. Like you, I had great time in the church as a teenager. I had great times and great experiences. Again, I just don't believe in a God or any supernatural being anymore. It's just
right.
what it is.
I think probably what spelled with doom for me was I was already skeptical as a kid. Like, I asked a lot of questions, and like it was not discouraged in my house to ask questions. The only difference is I think the thing that really pushed it though is that my mother would make me go and find the answers myself. So anytime I had a question, I had to go find the answers myself. And so I spent a lot of time reading, and like, things that didn't make sense to me, I would like, okay, so I'm going to read this next thing. I read C.S. Lewis, and I read all of those books like what's that, the Letters to Wormwood or whatever, the one I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I read all of that stuff, and I was like, okay, this sounds really, really, really dope and deep and stuff, but this doesn't make sense over here. You know what I mean? Or that doesn't make sense. And so it was just like a process, like, where I just ended up asking so many questions, and it wasn't that I was hitting walls, there was just nothing there. You know what I mean? I would ask questions to the point that there was just nothing there. There was nothing to answer. There were no answers, And so at a certain point, I just had to recognize that, this thing that I've been, told is real, it probably isn't, And then to study other religions and to see that there were these other religions that, people believe just as fervently as some of the people in my family and people I encountered. I was like, yes. Well, maybe they're all wrong,
Yeah, exactly. I feel the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. Plus, what you also have to realize with a lot that hatefulness and bitterness is exactly what makes it so cool to dehumanize believers in the atheist community. You get so much license to kind of essentially say whatever you want, which is part of the reason that you get a lot of the racist and a lot of the sexist and homophobic language,
and to say that it's logic,
right?
You know what I mean?
Because logic is the top thing. It's the best possible thing you can do, and I hate that. And if you disagree with them, especially, then they dismiss you as just being emotional, as if that's some negative, awful, terrible thing to be. It's like, no, maybe you're just being an asshole.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, but I mean, like logic is not like logic. It's really important to remember that logic is not truth. You know what I mean? Logic is just basically a way of trying to set up an idea. You know what I mean? Like, this is how I got to this idea. This isn't it, the idea and the conclusion could be faulty. The logic can be faulty. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
The question is how did you get there? And like, examine your own logic. I mean, it might sound intuitive or it might sound true, but it may not be true at the end of the day. So it's important that we even examine the thing. I mean, I do it all the time. Like, I think about things that I think, and I go to, like, I just went to the museum the other day, and like I thought about like the way that we set up museums, and like when we talk about like, other cultures, right? Like, we live in the West, right? I'm a black person, but I'm not an African. You know what I mean? And, when I walk into museums and I see, like, in the Natural History Museum that we have, Korea and Africa and, all of these other cultures, and they're represented mostly in terms of ancient history. but there's never any Europe for the most part. You know what I mean? And it's almost as though it sets up in one's mind that like Europe has always been modern. You know what I mean? Whereas these other cultures are always like, you know, they're always ancient. You know, they're not modern. They like, you know, like we're just looking at these things as though they're other. You know, that they're not us. Like they don't have anything to tell us about us.
Right.
And it's just really fascinating, like some of the things that you encounter when you just think about, like, where did that thought come from? You know, where did that idea come from? Why is it okay that we put on display mummies inside of museums? You know, these used to be people. You know what I mean? These were people of color in ancient cultures. You know, but we would never do that if that was like, you know, Henry VIII. You know what I mean? Like we would never do that. Like if it was like Ben Franklin. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you know, you have to think about these sorts of things. You know, if you really want to be a better thinker, a freer human being, a more loving human being, you know, you have to rethink a lot of the things that you've been, you know, indoctrinated with. And like I said, you know, sometimes people give you these things and they're trying to give you the best of themselves. You know what I mean? But they don't realize that even what they've been taught to think is wrong. So you just have to, you know, examine everything.
Right. You have to do a lot of unlearning, and to go along with that, you also have to do a lot of listening so that you know when you say something that's wrong or problematic, that someone's response to you is, whether or not you like it or whether or not it's in a tone that you particularly care for, should be a learning experience for you more than anything else. You know, if you say if I say something and use the F word, for example, and I try to make some claim like, oh, it doesn't mean that to me. You know, what I need to do is to sit and listen to folks out there so I can get an understanding of why that's a problem. You know that. You know, you shouldn't completely shut your mind off. It's like Stephen said several times. Your thinking shouldn't stop with just religion. Like, you should be examining all your other beliefs. And it's almost ironic because one of the biggest things you often hear in this community is that people refuse to examine their own beliefs. That's why they're still religious, right? Well, okay, you refuse to re-examine your own beliefs about minorities or about LGBTQ people. What about you?
Or even immigrants. Like people have like this like really like this rigid idea like, okay, well, you know, they're illegal. It's like, no, a human being can't be illegal. You know what I mean? We have a right to live.
Right,
you know what I mean? Human beings are not illegal. Now, if you want to say that like they crossed over illegally, you know, that's a little different. But even still, like, you know, like, what are these boundaries? Like, where do these boundaries come from? You know, who set that up? You know, like right now, there's a guy in Virginia, in Abingdon, Virginia, who has decided that he is now king of this 800 square mile region in North Africa. You know what I mean? And all because he promised his daughter that she would be a princess and that he was going to make that happen. You know, like, you know, in essence, though, you know, when you think about it, like, what is really different between, you know, the difference between that man just claiming that space and the way that these modern, you know, boundaries have been set up? You know, where did that come from? Someone came along and they said, this is mine. It's not yours anymore. And I set my flag down here and it's mine. Period. Yes. Yep. That's where it comes from. Exactly. You know, these aren't natural setups. You know, it's not like God came down and said, hey, this is the United States and this is Europe and this is Canada. You know what I mean? It's, you know, we did that. That's conquest. That's, you know, a whole bunch of things. It looks like Kim is coming back now to wrangle us in. She's about to wrangle us in. She put the headphones on. She's about to wrangle us back in. Get us on track.
Hey, you know, that's what happens. You know, I had to, it was a board meeting for Black Skeptics group, and so it was my section on the agenda, so I just had to give an update on, you know, National Day of HIV Testing Day. What we did was coming up. So anyway, moving forward, what we were talking about, and I don't know where you all went, but
Oh, we went all over the place. We were talking about ancient history. We were talking about immigration. We were talking
Everything.
about all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
oh, okay. Did you tell them about that potato salad, recipe we got from
Oh,
Komet? You know,
oh, funny,
that
funny.
ancient potato salad. But anyway,
Did you give it? I hope you didn't give it to that guy on GoFundMe who was raising money to make potato salad, because I don't want him to
Oh
have that
gosh.
recipe. No, he can't have my
so
ancient Kemetic recipe for potato
that's
salad.
right.
Mm-mm.
That's right. That's right. But no, it's interesting. I'm going to take it all the way back to what I was talking about last. I don't know what you all talked about, but we talked about the exceptionalism and tying it into the atheist community and how they're elevating people that are basically spouting the same message that they have, but it's just in blackface.
Right,
So it's basically white supremacy, black supremacy. There's a congruence there, same damn thing, right?
right.
So let's tie that into the cult of personality, because what's happening is what I'm seeing is they're elevating people that are spouting that same message. And I just think that it's important that we kind of get in front of that train, because I see a train wreck coming about when dealing with the Christian community. And this is why I'm talking about these things. And this is why every Thursday we have a Twitter chat at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I have been, asking some questions, giving critiques of the atheist community. And it goes back to something that I said earlier. Why, what I don't understand is with a lot of these black atheists, they seek the approval of these mainstream atheists and atheist organizations when these people see them as nothing other than a resource. And so, I'm afraid of what the fallout is going to be, because unfortunately, we see a lot of Islamophobia in this community. And a lot of Muslims are brown people, so a lot of Christians are people of color, and I see them constantly battering at them. And we've already established that in black Christian churches, the majority of the congregants are black women, and we see them pounding hard at black women as well. And I see a major clash coming up in the not so distant future. So I guess my question to Raina, since her mic is up, my question to her would be, what can we do to safeguard ourselves and to get the message out that we are not purveyors of that negative message that's being put out there?
I mean, just what we're doing right now. I mean, what we've been doing, the tweeting, the blogs, the webcasts, the reaching out to different organizations, doing these national service days that we've been doing with P.O.C, BF, and and the conference that we're having in October. I think those are major steps. It's unfortunate that it's so funny that there's this conversation going on in this community right now about what do you call it, mission drift and mission drift and sort of group cohesion, and they're asking us to basically subvert our views to the mainstream views and fall in line and stuff. I thought we stopped being Christians and believers to get away from all that crap. You know what I mean? So that we didn't have to, just fall in line with what pastor said. You know what I mean? And I'm certainly not getting in line with what Dave Silverman says, so they can forget that.
Exactly. And Stephen, your take?
Yep. Again, just piggyback off of what Raina said. I think just doing stuff like this, having groups like Chocolate City Skeptics and letting people know that there is, making our building awareness in the community. Having these webcasts, having our community get-togethers, having outreach, and just doing things in the community. I think that in itself helps, put the misconception, or just in general, just showing people that everybody is different. We all have our different views and everything, and free thinking is something that we all should just be doing and helping better ourselves.
Excellent. Marcus?
Okay, can I get the question again? Okay, I missed it. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no, no worries, no worries. I was talking about the fact that, we're doing these national social justice projects. We've been out here tweeting, critiquing mainstream atheists and atheist organizations, and, what we've been doing, what we've been putting out here, and how I see, in a lot of cases in the atheist community, we have a lot of Islamophobes. And so, those are primarily brown people. And we have people in the atheist community that are pounding at black women, pounding at the black church, which is primarily, people of color. And so what I'm trying to do is, basically say, how can we let people know that we're not purveyors of that particular message, and that there are some people out here that, definitely do not fall in line with that type of ideology, that type of mindset and group thinking.
Well, two big things. One is being vocal. Obviously, we one of the best tools we have as people is our voices, and it's important for us to really speak out and make sure that we are actively trying to reach people so that they know that we're not like some of these other organizations that are out here spewing this hatred and this awful stuff. And another is to also, again, this combines with being vocal, which is being visible. So people also need to see that there are people out here that we're out here, and we're not gonna do what they're doing. We're not involved with that. They may also, these other folks may also be non-believers and whatnot, but we're not going to be here trying to talk down to you because you happen to be a Muslim, or we're not going to talk down to you, for being religious in some form or fashion. You know what I mean? Because what we're concerned about is a lot bigger than whether you believe in God or not, or whether or not you spend your Sundays in church. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. People need to understand, that people love having choices. Ultimately, everyone loves having choices, and no one likes having their options limited. So if we can showcase that we're concerned about them while still allowing people to have the choice to be religious or to not be religious, or to spend their time however they want to spend their time, then that's what we have to do.
But I also think too that I'm sorry. I also think too that it's a misconception about atheists is that we're here to shove our non-belief down people's throats, and that's not it. We're not. I know I think I can speak for Raina and Brooks as well. We're not here. We're here to just be a tool for people. We're not here to judge anybody. We're here to just make ourselves that we are around, and we're here if you need to reach out. We're not going to bash anybody. That's not what we represent.
Exactly. I mean, I don't think you guys judge me because sometimes, on a Sunday I might turn on the radio and I might be bopping down the street to some gospel music. I mean, I grew up on it. I like gospel music. I appreciate it. It's a great genre. You know what I mean? So, we're not trying to judge you, So.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Well, I enjoy gospel music as well. That's why Raina was telling me don't listen to any gospel music before the Twitter chat. Because it just goes in a totally different direction. But it's phenomenal. And like I said, I'm glad, the community is growing. And this is the thing. And I was trying to convey this on a webcast. I did a 3-part series about myself and leaving religion. And so, this is just my opinion, and this is how I see myself as being a part of this community, the atheist, secular, free thought community. Now that I've gotten to the point where it's acceptance of myself, and not being afraid to be out, not being afraid to tell people that I'm a non-believer. What I want to do is stretch the boundaries, if you will. I want to go outside of, even though I'm outside of that box, I'm still in another box. And so I'm trying to get out of this box and go beyond that and see how far we can go. And so, stretching myself, stretching ourselves, getting out here in the community, being innovative, giving back to the community, creating a community, if you will. And, I just see us doing that. So I guess I would ask Brooks, what would you like to see happening in the atheist community, let's say 3 years from now? What would you like to see? Where would you like for us to be?
I would like to see a lot more diversity and a lot more intersectionality, and I would like to see mainstream atheist organizations acknowledging the humanity not only of believers but also the humanity of the people of color and the LGBTQ people that they conveniently use to push their own anti-religious agendas.
Excellent. And Stephen?
I'd love to see people being a lot more vocal about their non-belief without fear of being rejected or fear of being disassociated from family and friends. I would love to see that happen, especially in the Black community. I think it's important that people should be able to vocalize what they feel, their thoughts, without being criticized or anything like that. So that's what I would like to see, and I would like to see, again, just like Brooke said, a little bit more humanism within our community as well.
Excellent. And Raina?
I want to see so many things, but what I really want to see, I would like to see atheist organizations, secular organizations, speaking out on things that won't gain them points. You know what I mean? Necessarily won't points against religion. You know what I mean? I want to see them speaking out on issues that are about humanism and about helping to make us freer and make us better, that aren't just based on oh yeah, we got that point against the religious folks, yay, we're better. I want to see them talking about things like immigration issues. I want to hear them talking about school resegregation. I want to hear them talking about school to prison pipelining. I want to hear them talking about just transforming our society, you know what I mean, into a better, more inclusive place, and that's what I really would want to see. More organizations doing that.
Exactly. Transforming our society, transcending what has normally been the baseline for atheism. So that's what I mean when I say stretching, transcending what has been the status quo in this community. And that's why we call this people of color, because we do appeal to the Latino community, we do appeal to the Asian community, we do appeal to the indigenous, so on and so forth. And we want everyone to have a voice. We want you to write us and be a part of what we're bringing out, what we're doing here. We are trying to provide a safe space for people to be able to, speak their minds. And, what I find fortunate is that, I've been able to, speak out. I've been able to sometimes put words to how other people may be feeling, but they may not have been confident enough to say it, or they just didn't have the language, in order to convey that. And so, again, we're appealing. We had a young lady, Michelle, who had reached out to us, and we put her on a panel. She's coming to our conference. She's part of the Secular Asian, organization. And so, we're reaching out because we do want people to become involved, and we want you to have that safe space. We want you to have that voice. We want, like Brooks was talking about humanity, that was one of the questions that I put forth on the Twitter chat. Why do we always have to prove our humanity? And that's, one of the issues when people can convince other people to look at you as though you are less than human, then they can then justify, saying all of these horrible things and doing horrible things to you. And, what I find interesting is, we haven't even resolved many of these same issues within the atheist community, but yet they're trying to point the finger at Christians. And I used to do the same thing to Christians. I used to say, how are you pointing the finger, at atheists when you haven't even cleaned up your own house? And so, I pose the same question over here. But, is we have a long way to go. Yes, we do. But, we're making improvements. And, it's a slow process, but it's a process nevertheless. But it just comes to a time when we have to stand up, step out, and go out here and do it instead of pontificating about why we're no longer believers, and pontificating about the problems that we see in our communities. Now it's time for us to be a part of the solution. Would you not agree, Raina?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I'm sorry, I want to add one more thing to what I said. I also want us to the atheist community start talking, start challenging each other more. Especially the people who are, the so-called leaders of this movement, when they say, ignorant things, like, Michael Shermer in his recent article about, income inequality and how it's a myth, and it's like heavily slanted, and it's based on the work of one economist, and it's also just about furthering a libertarian agenda that he has. It's not necessarily about truth. It's not skeptical. It's just about a very exclusive agenda that doesn't benefit people of color or a lot of the people who are even his readers in any way. I just would like us to challenge folks a lot more in this community, period. I feel like people who are the so-called leaders get a lot of passes for things that they should not be saying.
Exactly. And we spoke about Jeremiah, and he made some comments during the blackout rally that they had. And Raina, do you want to talk a little bit about what he said about black people and white people?
Oh my goodness.
And I'm going to get to you two guys in a minute. I don't want Stephen and Brooke think I forgot about them. I'm on my way, guys.
Okay. I mean, I think I wrote that like about a year or so ago. So, well, not a year. It's almost a year now. Whew. I mean, the year's gone by fast. But yeah, the article that I wrote about Jeremiah was it talks about some of the things that he said while he was there and at the blackout rally, and he said something along the lines of black people don't. He said they don't want handouts and whatnot, and he said some other things. I can't remember specifically. I don't know. Maybe you remember more specifically, because it's been a while. Because he said some other things since then that have sort of irked me. And I'm trying to, picking them out individually is very difficult for me at this stage. So.
Right. Well, no, it was more along the lines of, black people did not need handouts, and we don't want equality. It was that point.
Yeah, we don't want equality. That's what it was. You're right.
Yes.
Yeah, no, screw him. We want equality. We want equality. We want rights. We want to be in possession of our full human rights, as anyone else should be in full possession of theirs. I mean, to say that we don't want equality is just simply foolish. We want equality. We want justice. That's what we want.
Exactly. And Stephen?
What was the question?
Oh, well, basically the question was, getting out here and, why do we have to prove our humanity over and over, and especially in the atheist community, if they're standing for good and they're saying that all of these social ills are due to religion, why is it that over in the atheist community, that black atheists and atheists of color, we're still over here having to prove our humanity to them?
I think, unfortunately, that it's not just the atheist community. That's any community. I think there's a constant there's a constant pressure to have to prove something And unfortunately, it's something I think we just have to continue to do, and I think it's just going to be something ongoing for a long time. I don't think it's necessarily the right thing, but I think in order to prove that we are humanists, that we're just going to have to continue to do it.
Excellent, very good. And Marcus?
I mean, just to piggyback off what Stephen said, it's unfortunate because we really should already be at a place where my existence should be good enough. The fact I'm here should be good enough. The fact that we're all here should be good enough. And it's ridiculous, that we continue to have to go over these extra obstacles to accomplish some of the same things. Especially, considering a lot of the people who don't have any obstacles, like to create this idea that we're all equal. We're all African, right?
Right. Absolutely.
We're all African, right?
Right.
Except for when you want to decide whether my actions are acceptable. Except whether you want to decide whether you give a shit about my death because I'm respectable, whether I'm respectable or not. If you want to give a shit about stuff that happens to me, but you don't give a shit about stuff that happens to my sister because she's a woman. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like it sucks, but that ultimately, we need to if we really want to be as progressive and forward thinking, then people's existence should be good enough, regardless of whatever extra shit, whatever baggage that comes with it, whatever. But people are people, and they need to be acknowledged as people, regardless of whatever issues you have with them.
Right.
Excellent, excellent. So I guess I will ask Marcus, where do you see Chocolate City Skeptics a year from now? Where would you like to go? What would you like to do with the organization? What role would you like to play in the DMV local area?
I want to go to Essence Fest. No, I'm just kidding. In all seriousness, I want us to continue to grow, and I want us to really be active in the community. Like everyone in my personal life knows how much like I talk about my organization because I'm like, oh, sorry, I can't do this. We have a meeting on Sunday. Or sorry, I'm doing research because I'm trying to find some stuff for us to get involved in. You know what I mean? I've delayed going out to eat right now because I'm doing this right now, and this is important to me. So in a year from now, I want us to continue to grow. I want more people who are in the area to really come out and acknowledge that we're here and see that we're here and see that we are about creating change. I love my city. I've been here my entire life, and it breaks my heart because I see how much my city is changing, and I see that a lot of the changes that are occurring, while they are good for the city, are not necessarily good for the people that are living here. And so I want the group to be an agent, a catalyst to help change the lives of the people that are being forgotten or left out from all of this new development and whatnot. And ultimately, I want myself, I want to do whatever I need to. I want to continue partnering with Raina, and I want to continue to get the rest of our members involved. And I really want to be out there and be hands-on and to show that we're really about this. It's not just something I'm doing for charity or for my own ego or anything like that. That I'm really about this, and we've been about this, and it's time for people to see that.
Yay.
That is fantastic. And Raina?
Okay, well, I want to take over the world. No. No. I don't
And destroy Nutella.
And destroy. No. That's an inside joke. Sorry, y'all. But no, Nutella is delicious. I'm here to tell you. Anyway, and that is a fact. So no, when it comes to Chocolate City Skeptics and where I would like to see us in a year, I would like to see us, just growing, like Marcus said. We've had some good turnout at a lot of our meetings, and I like to see that continue. I want us to be, again, more involved in the community. I'd like us to be helping to change some lives and to improve some things in our community. And I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, if it never gets much bigger than what it is right now, I think we've done a lot. But I would like to see us grow, and I'd like to see us become more involved in the community, and to lend our support to other organizations that are trying to do the same. So
Fantastic. And Stephen?
I would love to see. I think we've done a great job with this group. I think that Brooks and Raina have really done a phenomenal job with organizing these events and really making sure and engaging the group and posting in the group and just getting everybody involved and trying to get everybody involved in the group. I would love to see. We've had great turnouts. I would love to see even more turnout at our events and our meetups. We have, I think, 70-something members now, if I'm not mistaken. I think that
that's in the Facebook group. That's not necessarily at the meetings. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, it's in the Facebook group, right. I would love to see a quarter of them come to some of our meetings. I know some of them aren't in our area. However, I would love to see a lot more group participation, and I would love to see just more community outreach and just building the awareness and making us known and having people know who we are. Versus I think it's important for people to ask, oh, what is Chocolate City Skeptics? What's that? But really having people know, that's the group of non-believers or skeptics in the DC area. They do really good for the community. I want us to be known for that. We have our T-shirts. I think a lot of us have our T-shirts now, and I think it's important that we wear them and let people know that we're around. So again, just keep. Oh, there you go, Raina. Yeah, there you go. So I didn't wear mine, but just again building our awareness out, and I just really hope that a year from now we have that awareness in the DMV area and just nationwide, and that people know about us.
Excellent, fantastic, and that's why we're doing, these webcasts. And next week we will have Black Skeptics Chicago on, so that should be interesting. I started a group in Chicago. It was formerly known as Black Non-Believers of Chicago, and we changed the name to Black Skeptics Chicago. And so we'll be on next Sunday. As a matter of fact, it'll be a different time frame. It's going to be a little earlier because we're having a barbecue later on that afternoon. So, we're just going to do it all. I'm going to have it all. But, we're
going to have a name change, too. We're going to have a name change, too. We're going to change ourselves to Nutella City Skeptics. We have nuts in our
Can someone turn her mic off? Kim, you're from Chicago. Can you come snatch her mic and honor Kanye, please? So we're telling this nonsense. It's about to be the last meeting we have.
The biggest nut of all is Marcus. That's why we're going to change it to Nutella City.
Someone needs to snatch her mic.
But
see, this is about to be the last group. This is about to be the last CCS. You hear of us.
But no, I think we're all looking for growth. All the groups across the country, we want to tell everybody that, there are groups in almost every major city in the United States, and we're growing. Some cities have 2 groups. I know you have AAHDC, and we're trying to work with each other, work in conjunction with each other, collaborate. I know Black Atheists of Philadelphia and Chocolate City Skeptics, they're going to get together and do a gathering together. And Black Skeptics Chicago has been approached to partner and collaborate with another group. I'm waiting on more information to come in for that. And we have no problems doing that. We have no problems collaborating with other groups. We want to do that. And so we're starting to reach out even more. And so, we encourage you, for those that have groups that want to grow, start working with other groups in your city, reach out a little more, appeal to people, different, there are a number of different types of people in the community. Appeal to them, and be more vocal. Get on Twitter a little bit. Just get involved. Get to know some people. Reach out to any of us. We can give you some information about other groups throughout the United States. And so we just encourage you guys. We encourage other organizers to get out there. We encourage you to reach out, stand up, take a stand, and to get out and do some service-related projects. And so, we're working on more things to bring to our national agenda, what we're trying to put out there as far as social justice activity is concerned. So, we would like to thank Chocolate City Skeptics for taking time out to be with us. We went a little bit into overtime. I know everybody's ready to go eat.
And we want to thank you too. Thank you so much for having us.
Anytime. Oh yeah, definitely. And any other groups out there, if you want us to feature you, please write us, People of Color Beyond Faith at gmail.com. We'll be happy to have you on board, and to go from there. But we were going to have our digital online conference in August, but that is the same time frame that Free Thought Blogs has their online conference, and we will be spearheading 3 panels. So, we're going to be pretty busy in August. And then we have the scholarship ceremony. We awarded 4 scholarships. Black Skeptics Group awarded 4 scholarships to 4 deserving young people. And so we'll be having our ceremony in August. So I'll be in Los Angeles for that. I'll make sure we get a lot of pictures and post them. And in September is going to be another activity in Chicago. Is going to be an all-white linen affair with an organization that we teamed up with for the homeless. So that's why we're asking for bars and soap and things like that. So we want to give that away. And the press release for that should be out hopefully within the next week or 2.
We're going to send you some woolite so you keep all them whites clean.
Hey, you know it now. So, that's going to be, a nice little social gathering. We're expecting about 50, 60 people to that fundraiser because it's going to be a fundraiser. So we're looking forward to that. So we are doing things. We are engaging the public. We are engaging other organizations. We are giving back to our communities, and that is what we want to make sure that we convey. If you don't get anything else from this, know that we're giving back and know that we do care for you and that you're not alone. And so on that note, I thank everybody for joining us. We thank you for the support. Again, if you want to send in a PayPal donation, People of Color Beyond Faith at gmail.com. You can use that to email us. You can use that to reach out. Every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have Twitter chat, hashtag of P.O.C. Beyond Chat. Again, hashtag P.O.C. Beyond Chat. Thank you. Good night, everybody. You all enjoy your lunches, and we are now out. And we appreciate each one because, again, I just want to make sure that the general audience knows how much we care about them. So take care, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
And, of course, my screen will freeze on me right when I'm trying to end this.